Indeed. We are here. We are live in the aftermath of the Thursday night of the Sweet 16 on college basketball coast to coast on the platforms on social media, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, X. Great to be back with you. I am merely TJ Rives. My wingman Jason Powers is here. We're going to get lots of insight upcoming as well from Ari Russell, who's been in Newark, where Alabama, are they done making three-pointers yet, Jason? Welcome in. Ari's there in Newark. Duke has beaten Arizona. But my friend, our game of the night, as it turns out, the final game of the night is the best game of the night, and that is Texas Tech, who has just beaten Arkansas with a tremendous final 3 minutes comeback and then an overtime win. Jason, welcome in on college basketball coast to coast. 85-83, the Red Raiders with a winning shot in the final 10 seconds of overtime to win the game.
Tremendous comeback. I mean, Arkansas up 16 in the second half. That game looked to be over and done. And give Texas Tech all the credit. They hung in there. Arkansas with a few quick shots in the last 3-4 minutes of that game up with the lead, but Texas Tech made every big shot they had to make. And in Darian Williams in overtime, the low post, the post-up move, got the friendly roll. You can question the last possession for Arkansas a little bit, and we'll talk about it a little bit. But Cal finds a way to lose another one that if you look in the annals, he should have won.
Yeah, it's we can look back on this game and see heroic play after heroic play where Texas Tech, again, down by 13 points in the final 3 minutes, finishes on a 16-3 run in overtime. It looked like a Tampa kid, the freshman, Carter Knox, was going to be the hero. He made some early threes. He made a big three out of the corner. It looked like that might be the difference. Texas Tech got it tied with their own three, and then Arkansas couldn't score at the end of regulation. That comes back to haunt them in the overtime. There's not an overtime if they find a way, obviously, to score. Yep. And Texas Tech, again, they complete the rally. They complete the win. They're the final piece to the Thursday night puzzle. Texas Tech will now play Florida, who beat Maryland earlier in the night. Again, thank you for finding us on all the platforms. You can weigh in with some comments as we go along here for a little while. All right, what are your overall takeaways here where we've seen Duke, the amazing shooting night of Alabama, we've seen Florida win, and this great finish from Texas Tech? Start us off with a couple of other takeaways besides the Texas Tech win.
We have to go to Newark. Have we ever seen a shooting display like we saw tonight with the Alabama? I mean, I've never seen an NBA game, forget a college kids, an NBA game. These guys made 25 out of 51 threes. 25 out of 51.
25 out of 51 is tough with no one guarding you, and you're just in the gym yourselves as five guys shooting 25 of 51. Yes.
I mean, and Mark Sears makes 10 of them. I mean, he had been struggling. They had been struggling in the first two rounds from the three-point line. And BYU played a pretty good game offensively. It's not like they turned the ball over 20 times. They played pretty well offensively, just unconscious shooting by Nate Oates and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Our friend Chris Stewart had to have been very excited.
Oh, yeah. Chris Stewart on the play-by-play call on the radio on the Crimson Tide Sports Network had to be having an out-of-body experience as they made all of those threes. I just really believed, it's easy to say now, but the word is seduced that I love to use. They got seduced, BYU, in trying to play the helter-skelter, up and down, three-bombing type game. And at one point, it was 14-2 on made threes. I think it finished 25-6. But when it was 14-2, you looked at the body language and the expression of the BYU guys, and it was almost as if we're beaten. We know we are beaten. It's midway through the second half. We're not going to catch these guys. And the thing is, Bama stayed on the gas and kept bombing the threes, Jason.
And kept making them. I mean, they were, I don't know what stretch. There was a stretch in the second half where like 7 straight possessions, it seemed like they made a three. I mean, they were just unconscious, and very interesting matchup with Duke. I mean, Duke had a big lead, led Arizona back in the game. Arizona made that game interesting. Caleb Love played tremendously. You wonder, does Duke get seduced into that pace, or can Duke stabilize and realize, hey, guys, we got to slow it down a little bit. We still going to play fast, but Cooper Flagg was sensational tonight and, sets up a great regional final in the East.
No doubt. And again, Duke had a lot of firepower. Arizona kept scoring, but Cooper Flagg is the biggest takeaway for me. It looked like a game that he was saying body language wise, here we go again, attitude. I'm not going to let us lose. I will find a way to make a play. Points, assists, block shots at the other end.
Kept doing the lob.
Just tremendous with the assists, making big play after big play, making key free throws. Yep. So you get what you want if you're the NCAA tournament. If you're CBS, you got Duke now in the marquee spot coming Saturday night and hopefully in the Final Four, going for a national championship. What a performance! What a performance by them, and they had to have it. I mean, Arizona played well, shot the ball well, but Duke was just better tonight. Again, we're live here on College Basketball Coast to Coast. Got a lot of different moving parts on the live show. Why don't we do this? Our colleague Ari Russell, Jason, is there at the Prudential Center in Newark, and he is able to pop on with us right now and give us some insight on what we just saw. Ari, you're on here with Jason and me live on College Basketball Coast to Coast platforms here late night after the Sweet 16 on Thursday. Pick it up. Welcome and pick it up on Duke and Cooper Flagg and what you sensed as the second half went on in that arena.
Yeah, well, it was one of those games where it looked like Duke was pulling away. I think they had about an 18-point lead at one point.
Yeah.
But Arizona really fought back. You got to give them a lot of credit. There was a very physical basketball game, and Arizona really didn't. They left it all on the court. Caleb Love, phenomenal. I think he had 33, 34 points in his final game as a collegiate athlete, and you got to give him and the rest of the Arizona team a lot of credit. On top of that, Duke has to get a lot of credit too. This was a game that got somewhat close at the end, but wasn't exactly out of, they never were able to really put it completely out of reach, but they made the plays that they needed to play, especially the free throws towards the end of the game. Yep. They're hitting the free throws to lock the game. So it showed us, and I know that some of the concern was, how is Duke going to be in a close game at this pressure point? Well, we saw tonight they were put under some pressure, and they actually came through victorious. So, in my opinion, I think this was a huge test against a very formidable opponent, a team that really was playing very well at a high level themselves and very physical. The refs were actually towards Arizona's advantage in this game because they allowed a lot of the physical play. But in my opinion, I just think that Duke just showed me a lot tonight in their resilience and be able to close out a game at this point, at this level of the season. I think it's a testament to how good this team is.
I'm curious because we could sort of tell on TV, but in the arena, how much was it a pro Duke arena? How much do you think they fed off that as the game went on, the second half went on? What would you say?
It was at least 70% Duke at the very minimum, I think. Maybe more, but it was a partisan Duke crowd, significantly so. In fact, you could tell that it was going to be from the first game, from all the empty seats. It didn't start filling up until close to the halftime of the first game between BYU and Alabama. So this was a very heavy Duke crowd. I expect Saturday to be more Duke than Alabama at this point. But I'm excited for that showdown as well because, wow, these two teams, both teams tonight, both winners scored over 100 points. How about that? Scored 100 or more. I don't know if I've seen that in two teams in the same.
Did we have 400 points in the two games? Close to it, right? I mean, literally, right at 395 points, I think, in the two games, something like that. It is crazy how much scoring. Jason, go ahead.
Interesting play in the game that I was surprised. I couldn't believe they didn't assess a flagrant one. Was on the hook by the Duke kid after they had just given a flagrant foul to the Arizona kid on the exact same hook and hold kind of play. The game was still in doubt. It was 6 or 7 points at the time. I thought that was a big miss by the officiating crew.
Yeah, I mean, they missed a few things. It wasn't the best officiated game. We were just talking about that in the media room. So I wouldn't say they were the most consistent tonight. And yes, that was a key play, a key moment, I think. But there was a lot of things also that they were missing as far as Arizona really banging into the Duke players and getting no calls. So, you kind of give away a few here or there, and then Duke kind of got the benefit of the doubt on the whistle on the play that you're speaking of. Of course, the timing of everything is something that you could say, what if?
Right.
But, this was a very physical ball game on both sides of the ball. And Duke, you could see, is able to take it and dish it. But Arizona, I was impressed with their play tonight. I thought they really came in, especially not giving up and trying to make somewhat of a comeback and playing till the end of till it hits quadruple zeros on the clock. So that just tells me that this is a well-coached team, and with veterans on Arizona and Duke. I mean, Duke is an elite team, and this is mostly their three best players, or three lottery pick players. I wouldn't say best players, but you've got three freshmen starting the starting lineup, and they're the key players. Obviously, you got Flagg and Knepel, but the big guy as well. Considering they also had foul trouble, both their big guys were in foul trouble tonight. So, and they were able to overcome that.
Yeah, Malawach in foul trouble, and they did get it done. Again, Ari Russell with us for a few more moments. He's been working hard late night. He's been in the Duke locker room. He was earlier in the winning locker room. We're going to play an interview of yours in just a moment with one of the Alabama players. But just say something. What was it like? Again, you give us the taste inside the Prudential Center as Alabama continued to rain the three balls. It almost became like a video game. What was the game that we loved, Ari and Jason, in our youth? NBA Jams, right? He's on fire, right? And the fire would be coming out of the guy in the video game. That was almost like Sears and Alabama tonight, right?
Oh yeah, it was. It started getting ridiculous, and I talked to Diabate after the game, obviously one of their big guys on the front line. I said, hey, man, why didn't you take a three-point shot? And he basically says, I didn't really get an open look. He said, but I would have if I would have had the opportunity. I don't think that Diabate has, more than 4 3-point shots in his entire time at Alabama here. But they were just raining it down, and again, this team. I think Mark Sears was shooting like 15% from 3-point range during the tournament, and tonight he just he breaks the.
For the record, I said last night on the preview show, and I said it on the BetUS college basketball show on all their platforms, the handicapping show. He is due to break out and have a large night. Even I didn't think 10 made 3-pointers. All right, that's ridiculous. But it's almost like he was due to have a night like this where he was going to make a bunch. Do you agree?
Oh yeah, I think we all said that. I mean, they all knew it. They brought it up. Everyone in the locker room was bringing it up. They were saying it. Even I'm sure in the post-game press conference, it's the same thing. They said, look, the numbers are just going to shift at some point. That's just how it goes. That's just at some point it's going to go and deviate towards the mean, right? And that's what happened tonight. More so, it deviated beyond the mean tonight because they shot 25 out of 51 3-pointers tonight, which is a remarkable number to have on any night.
You want a nutty stat? I just looked at this. Jason, are you aware of this? All right, I don't know if you're aware of this. Alabama only took 15 2-point field goals. 15 in the whole game. 51 of their 65 shots were 3-pointers in this game. So it's the true epitome of what Nate Oates wants, which is either it's right at the rim or we want a 3. That's it. That's the only two things we want. We don't want an elbow jumper. We don't want a baseline jumper. We don't want anything else other than at the rim or a 3. They took 15 2-point field goals the entire night, and they made so many of them from 3-point range. Jason, did you have one more for Ari, or then we're going to play the interview as well that he got in the locker room? Go ahead, Jason.
Tonight reminded me of 1991, Jeff Peabody and the boys from Loyola Marymount.
All right, wait a minute. We got to reminisce about that in a couple of moments. Loyola Marymount is 1990. I know what you mean, and we're going to get to all of this because Alabama broke their record. The 21 made threes of Loyola Marymount
famous Michigan
had stood Ari for 35 years until what you witnessed tonight in the Prudential Center in Newark with Alabama making 25 of them. Let's play this interview while we're here. You hustled, and you got LeBaron Philon, one of the outstanding players, role players for Alabama, who had a couple of made threes himself. He had 10 points. He had 6 assists. How about Alabama had 27 assists in the game as well on the 35 made free throws, sharing the ball, the extra pass. All right, so let's bring everybody the interview that you did with LeBaron Philon after the Alabama win, where tonight they lit up BYU 113-88. Let's go to that conversation right now on College Basketball Coast to Coast.
It's really dangerous, when me and him on the floor together and we get 6+ assists every game. Like, how can you, contain that? It's like we dishing out to our bigs and, wings, getting open threes and stuff like that. And then mix that in with, scoring ability we have and multiple guys getting in double figures. I feel like, we keep playing how we playing, we got a chance.
So with this, there's a veteran team that's been to a Final Four before. How much does that help you in this process and getting this deep in the tournament?
I would say it takes stress out on me. Like, it takes it all out, because I don't have to, worrying about putting it all on the line and playing hard for those older guys. This their last year, but just playing with them, they do a good job of trying to help me and give me pointers of, telling me to slow down or when to speed up. So that's a good thing to rely on.
For sure. And by the way, it must feel real nice getting out that slump. I know it's so-called slump, but you guys knew that this was going to happen, at least tonight coming in here into Newark.
Yeah. Sometimes in basketball, it's not there. Like, your shot not going to be there. Coach Oates, they emphasize all the time, if we're not hitting threes, like, say, if we didn't hit a lot of threes tonight, how will we, still try to impact the game, whether it's offensive rebounding, or cheering on your teammates, or, just getting stops on defense. So we just try to do that every possession and just play hard every possession.
Congratulations and good luck on Saturday.
Thank you.
All right, so there we go. You talked again with LeBaron Philon. Well done, hustling there in the Prudential, Center for Alabama. Remarkable night. Give me a quick first blush thought on the matchup with Alabama and Duke while we have you here before you have to scoot.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. Duke's very good at the perimeter defense, right? So I think that some of their size and length is going to cause problems for Alabama on both ends of the court. Tonight, I know that they're not particularly that thrilled of their defensive performance because Arizona put a lot of points on the board themselves. So and Alabama's probably more of a dynamic scoring offense than Arizona was. So I'm pretty sure that they're going to make some adjustments there. In the paint, it's obviously a huge advantage for Duke. They have a lot of length and size down there. And then Cooper Flagg. I think the Flagg-Nelson matchup is going to be interesting. I think that's something that we're going to see. I don't know how they're going to guard him. He's a very difficult guy to guard because he pretty much is a point guard at this point. He was bringing the ball up the court and handling it and kind of distributing it as he normally does. But tonight it is more kind of in that role. We'll see with Evans is coming back. That's also another thing that we've got to look at. And this is going to be. I have to look at it more to kind of gauge what's going to happen on Saturday night because if Alabama shoots the way that they did tonight, they can beat anyone. They'll be cutting the nets down in San Antonio, a week from Monday. But I don't know if they're going to be able to do that against Duke, especially if they're making the adjustments that they need to make, because they're going to have to play a hell of a lot better on defense and make a lot more stops against an Alabama team on Saturday night.
Key for me, TJ and Ari, long rebound misses. So many of Alabama's threes are long rebounds, and they get second chances because of tip outs. Can the Duke guards don't look for the run out? You got to secure the possession, i.e. the Duke guards are going to have to rebound some of these long misses.
Yeah, I think it's a great point that you make. A lot of time to dissect that game. Wild night. Again, Ari Russell, great stuff as you watched Alabama with the record 25 threes. Cooper Flagg, the huge night. Duke moving on to the Elite Eight as they beat Arizona. Thank you. Great work.
Yes.
Great hustle tonight on College Basketball Coast to Coast. Well done. There we
Thank
go.
All right.
There goes Ari Russell from the bowels of the Prudential Center, right out of the Duke locker room. There,
you always know you're in an arena when you see the white cinder blocks in the background with the little creases and the crevices.
Right,
you know
outside.
You're in an arena.
Right outside the locker room. Again, we're giving you much more on everything that has happened here tonight. Again, the final game of the night. We don't want to sell Florida short. The Gators got it done against Maryland as the number 1 seed. They were impressive down the stretch, outplaying the Terrapins in the final 10 minutes and pulling away. But the bigger story is the Texas Tech comeback, which again is down from 13 points. It's down 16 at the largest deficit, but down 13 points in the final 3 minutes. They roar back to get the game tied and win in overtime. Or do you put it more as an Arkansas collapse? Texas Tech taking it from them, Arkansas collapse. Jason Powers, what would you say?
I'm not going to say collapse because they didn't turn the ball over. They didn't miss a ton of free throws, but there were a couple of possessions there where they were very quick to get up shots, and they relied heavily, and I think too much, on the three-point shot. They made 7 in the first half, and they just kept chucking those threes in the second half. If you're Arkansas, you had a good advantage with Adu. Brazil played really well. Carter Knox played really well. Too many three-point shots in the second half for my liking. And how about this stat? First time in Cal's career, 35-0 going into today. He had been up 6+ points at the half. First time he's ever lost a tournament game when he was up 6 or more at the half.
That's an incredible stat when TBS showed that earlier in the night in NCAA tournament games. First of all, to have won 35 NCAA tournament games is amazing in and of itself.
Right.
But to win 35 of them when winning at the half by 6 or more, that's pretty incredible. First ever loss comes tonight. And I'm just looking back on the play-by-play just for our own benefit and for the audience. What was the score at the 3-minute mark? I'm double checking, looking back in the play-by-play, and it may have been longer ago before that. They led 69-56 with 4:43 to go. They led by 13 with 4:43 to go. And again, at the end of regulation, Jason, it looked like the Tampa freshman, Carter Knox, had maybe won the game with the three-pointer, huge three-pointer from him. And that looked like
put him up 6.
Yeah, put him up 6 with a minute and a half left. Then Christian Anderson made the 3 right back about 15 seconds later to pull it within 3. And then the hero is Darian Williams. He made the 3 with 9 seconds left in regulation. He's the guy that made the winning shot off the glass at the end of regulation. A lot's going to be made. And you know what? Why don't we bring our colleague Matt Zemek in here to join in? Let's make it a trifecta on the end of game for Arkansas, both at the end of regulation and in the overtime. Hello to the West Coast Bureau Chief. This is still prime time for you in the West. It is late night in the East. We're already to Friday morning. But, Matt, welcome, and pick it up on this very point on Arkansas. Had a chance to win at the end of regulation with the score tied. Couldn't do it. Had a chance to tie the game at the end with a 2-ball. Didn't take their timeout. And the freshman DJ Wagner decided to play hero ball, shot a fadeaway shot and missed. How much are they going to rue fumbling away 2 opportunities to win the game? Matt Zemek, welcome.
So I'm here in Arizona, and there's a game that the University of Arizona never really recovered from. Two decades later, that 2005 Elite Eight game against Illinois, and Arizona led by 8 with about a minute left to play. Was about to get back to the Final Four. Lute was about to get back to the Final Four and let it slip away. Hassan Adams, Mustafa Shakur, just fumbling around the ball. D. Brown, and Darren Williams, Luther Head. Illinois makes that late scramble in the Rosemont Horizon. Dick Enberg was on the call. And so,
not that Matt doesn't remember everything about this as he rattles
Bruce Weber is the coach.
Bruce Weber, the Illinois coach.
Right.
Bill Murray, by the way, is in the stands for the Illinois comeback because one of his either nephews or son is part of the coaching staff for Illinois in the comeback. And you're saying Arizona never really recovered from that.
And with Arizona losing tonight, it's been 24 years since the last Final Four for Arizona. So I was thinking, as an Arizonan, this Arkansas collapses like that because Calipari was just about to get back to the Elite Eight, just about to have a chance at the Final Four once again after being a decade away. So like Arizona, a long drought for him, and then this happens. And this, full credit to Texas Tech. They never quit. They could have very easily, could have given up the ship. They never quit. Full credit to them. And, they did this without Chance McMillan. He was ruled out before the game. So this was a shorthanded Texas Tech team. So marvelous fight by Grant McCasland. We remember Texas Tech beating Houston on the road without JT Toppin when he was tossed, and also when McCasland was tossed. So this is a tough, resilient Texas Tech team. They deserve all their flowers. But let's be honest, this was a choke. The choked on some pulled pork in Arkansas. And most specifically, just the failure to run Texas Tech off the three-point line. Up 6, then up 3, go back up 6, like 72-66 with $1:15 left. You're thinking just no threes, and couldn't do it. I mean, that was just an elemental breakdown. You also had Calipari's old enemy, and I know this gives TJ a little bit of stomach pain, but that front end miss from Arkansas with up 3 in the final minute, that opened the door a little crack as well. But Arkansas has to run Texas Tech off the three-point line and was just horrible at doing that. And then you mentioned the DJ Wagner last possession, a long contested 2, just about the last shot that you're looking for. So this Arkansas team got rattled, and Cal could not keep things together. And it's a shame because he was coaching his butt off until the 4-minute mark of regulation, up 13.
Why at the end of the overtime, when you're coming up the floor down 2 and you've got a timeout, when Wagner doesn't get the ball to John L. Davis, who's been having a monster game, why does John Calipari not call timeout there? I just didn't understand that.
Because you had 6 or 7 seconds, even when you crossed midcourt.
Yes,
not like
correct.
It was 3 seconds. It was 6 or 7 seconds easily when they crossed midcourt.
And it would be one thing if the ball was in John L. Davis's hands and he's saying, okay, that's the guy that I want to have it. There's no need for me to call timeout.
Right.
I just didn't understand that. Matt, weigh in real quick on the strategy or the lack thereof at the end.
Totally. Not much to add. Like when Wagner's first move to the basket got stopped, that should have been timeout. Okay.
Yep.
He tried to drive to the basket. He got stonewalled. All right, I need to drop a play. It's that simple.
Here, and couple phases of that game that was really impressive to me when the game was still 10, 12, 11. How about the couple sequences where Texas Tech got like 4 offensive rebounds on a possession? That Federico kid, Federico was a monster for about a 3-minute period, keeping them in the game at 10, 11, 12, not letting that game get to 16, 17 again. So great hustle by Texas Tech. And like you said, the stick-to-itiveness of just hanging in there until they finally made some threes. Hawkins and Williams made their first threes in the last minute of the game, the 2 biggest threes of the game.
Yep.
Yeah. Got to put a little fun in here, especially if you're an Arkansas or SEC fan who's just destroyed by this. This is the Raiders' biggest win in the San Francisco Bay Area since the 2002 AFC Championship game.
Yeah, any kind of Raider. It's not usually those Raiders. And
but of course, TJ's Bucks. We all know what TJ's Bucks then did to the Raiders in San Diego a few weeks after that game.
That's correct. That's the footnote. Super Bowl 37. I believe I was there for that. Tough night for the Big 12 on the East Coast, with BYU going down and Arizona going down, but Texas Tech gets the win. Matt, we'll have you here for a few more minutes. Hey, say something. It's out in San Francisco. Say something about the job that Florida did, because at this point we haven't talked a lot about it. I put the word impressive there, impressive showing, especially down the stretch of the game. What were your thoughts on the top seed advancing to the Elite Eight to play Texas Tech?
Well, my mind just goes to NCAA tournament history right off the bat. And so there were a couple of things that happened in the Bay Area tonight that had happened in the Sweet 16 in the Bay Area before. So 2006, Gonzaga's collapse against UCLA, that was in Oakland. So this Arkansas collapse mirrored that. But the Florida connection, 1995, UCLA goes up to Oakland for the Sweet 16 right after the Tyus Edney escape job against Missouri. And I see a very possible parallel between 2025 Florida and 30 years ago, 1995 UCLA. The second round was UCLA's one big sweating bullets moment. After that, Bruins dump trucked everybody. Mississippi State in the Sweet 16 in Oakland, then UConn, then Oklahoma State, then Arkansas. So Florida, Florida survived its clunker against UConn and actually still played a bumpy, ragged first half. But Florida's a lot better than Maryland and finally was able to show it in the second half. So Florida getting past a lot of ugly basketball, that to me sets up the Gators beautifully for the Elite Eight and also for a potential national semifinal in San Antonio. One other thing in terms of NCAA tournament history. This is the 2019 NCAA tournament all over again. 6 years ago, Texas Tech, a 3 seed, playing top-seeded Gonzaga in the West Regional Final. 6 years later, Texas Tech, a 3 seed, playing the 1 in a West Regional Final. And now we have Beard versus Izzo in Ole Miss, Michigan State. We have Duke with the presumptive #1 pick in the draft. 6 years ago, it was Zion. Now it's Cooper Flagg. Auburn is a leading Final Four contender. This is the 2019 NCAA tournament again.
Bring us back to that. Florida, do I see 6 players in double figures? Jason Powers in this game tonight. They did turn it over 17 times, but they shot 50%. They made 11 threes. They held Maryland to 40% shooting. I'm looking at the final.
Me, TJ.
They out-rebounded Maryland 42-20 as well, but 6 guys in double figures. Go ahead, Jason.
The impressive thing for me was they were so unselfish tonight. Made the extra pass. How many times did the guard could have shot a 3 and boom, he dumped it down to the big man for an uncontested layup. So impressed with the ball movement and the unselfishness. They didn't care tonight who scored the points. They found the open guy a good shot became a better shot by that extra pass. What a job by that Florida offense. Turned it over too much in the first half, but boy, the ball movement and the unselfishness on the offensive end was very impressive.
So Florida will look to get into the Final Four. You mentioned Texas Tech was there in 2019. I was there in Minnesota with Ari Russell, with our buddy Deshaun Tate. And obviously 75,000 of our closest friends. We were all there for that, and it ended up being a national title win for Virginia over Texas Tech in an overtime game, by the way, for that matchup. So, again, the Gators, impressive. We have not gotten your thoughts as well, Matt, before we move along here on the East Regional, the Alabama barrage of threes in the early game, and then the Duke win with Cooper Flagg and company taking the game over in the second half. There's another stat from the Duke game where at the end of the first half, into the beginning of the second half, they made 11 of 14 field goals during that stretch. A lot of it was alley-oop, easy dunks, but they at that point extended the lead, led by as many as 16 at one point. It got down to about 5. Duke made their free throws, but Matt, give me some thoughts on both of those. You want to begin with Alabama and the amazing a 3-point barrage? You want to begin with that tonight?
Yeah. So, 2 years ago, Alabama was the #1 seed and got upset in the Sweet 16. And who upset Alabama 2 years ago as a 1 seed? That was San Diego State. San Diego State, a team that can disrupt you, make the game ugly, muck it up, just take Alabama out of its rhythm, out of its preferred pace. BYU does not do that. I thought this was a great matchup for Alabama all the way. This always figured to be a racehorse game in the 90s. And, of course, Alabama gets over 100 points. So the matchup was perfect. Also, BYU, wild stat. I forget who mentioned it. I think it was a San Diego Union Tribune writer, ironically enough, having mentioned San Diego State. BYU this season, 19-3. Above 4,000 feet above sea level, in the mountain region, and 7-7 below 4,000 feet. So, but it reinforces how Wisconsin got a raw deal having to go to Denver as the 3 seed to play 6-seeded BYU. You put that game in Milwaukee or even, let's just say, Kansas City, a place that's below 4,000 feet, game might work out a little bit differently. So BYU took advantage.
Bringing the altitude into the whole equation as well.
You a climatologist, Matt Zemek? Are you a climatologist?
All the insight.
Well, the San Diego Union Tribune guy is the climatologist. I'm just
amazing.
I need to get you on the Weather Channel, man. We need to get you Weather Channel.
He and Jim Cantori. Hey, again, the 25 threes, you're a romantic like I am, like Jason Powers was bringing up earlier. It took 35 years for the Loyola Marymount record of 21 threes in the game against Michigan in the second round to be broken tonight by Alabama. They were bringing it up on the TBS call of the game with Brian Anderson and or on the CBS call of Brian Anderson and Jim Jackson, although they butchered it a couple of different times. I almost wanted to reach through the TV on, if you're going to get the nostalgia going, you got to get it right on the names. Let's call Paul Westhead Paul Westhead. Let's don't call him Paul Westfall. But in any event, the three-pointers made, they kept gunning them, much like Loyola Marymount at the end. Now, our colleague Mike DeCourcy, the Hall of Fame basketball writer, I was in communication with him. He and I were texting back and forth. He kept saying, you need to point out that Loyola Marymount scored 144 points, not just 113, and they did it against the defending national champs with several pieces back on that team. Terry Mills, Ramil Robinson, etc., Loy Vaught, that were all first-round picks on that Michigan team that Loyola Marymount did it to. But just romanticize one more time, 35 years later, Matt Zemek, and even Jason Powers. Matt
Zemek. Name the starting lineup for Loyola without Bo Kimball. The other four guys. Give me the other four.
I can name them. Let's see how many Matt Zemek gets. I can name them. Go ahead.
Man, not good here.
Jeff Fryer.
Jeff Fryer.
Fryer is obviously the guy with the 11 threes. Terrell Lowry was the point guard.
Yeah.
Jason wants me to go Per Steamer, the guy from Sweden that could make the threes. It was incredible after the death of Hank Gathers. But I monopolized it. Matt, pick it up on what Alabama did tonight. We haven't seen for 35 years in the NCAA tournament.
Well, you know that after Loyola Marymount won that game against Michigan, whom did they play in the Sweet 16? Alabama.
Alabama.
And so, Wimp Sanderson and Nate Oates, they both wear plaid jackets. They both won a pile of ball games at Alabama, but in terms of style of play, two completely different universes, because Wimp successfully slowed down LMU in that Sweet 16 game. I believe the final score was 62-60, so
Correct.
It was a crawl.
In Oakland, in Northern
LMU
California.
was able to win, even then.
In Oakland, yeah.
So, so Nate Oates is taking everything Wimp did at Alabama, and he's taking it to a higher level and a much faster pace. Let's deal with Alabama Duke. Ari Russell, I think, made the central salient point. Alabama's going to have to shoot the three as well as it did against BYU against Duke. And Duke has just a slightly better defense than BYU does.
Obviously.
So that's an uphill battle. And one other general point to make is that, if you followed men's tennis in the golden age of Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, it was always so hard for any of those guys to win because they knew that they'd play one of them in the semifinal and they'd have to then go through the other one in the final. Like if you were on the wrong side of the draw, if you got the short end of the stick, you'd have to go through both Nadal and Federer, or Nadal and Djokovic, whatever. That's kind of the feeling I get with Alabama here. Not so much that BYU was Federer, but the point is that you kind of like to be able to play your semifinal at like a B-, even C+ level, so that you can go all in and give your A game in the final. Alabama already played its A game tonight. Usually it doesn't work out that you have your A game in a semifinal and then you can carry it in the final. With the NCAA tournament, it's 3 two-game tournaments. You want one. You don't intend for your first game to be ugly so that your second game can be a masterpiece, but really that's part of the art of advancing. Like you want to win without having your best in the first game, so that then that second game on the weekend you can max out. And Alabama is not in a position to do that.
Zemek has gone climate and altitude, and now it's gone tennis. you and I will have to go back and forth at some point about the golden age of tennis not being the 80s with Connors and Borg and McEnroe and Becker, and I'm going to leave somebody else out, Yvonne Lendl, and all the other guys in the 80s. We'll spar on that at a later date. Jason, anything else for Matt Zemek before we let him?
And here's the other part of this equation Saturday night in Newark. It's going to be an 80-20 out Duke crowd. So it's going to be a de facto home game for Duke.
And let me tell you what the other big deal is. I know that Alabama has won some significant games, but on the screen right now, if that guy, Cooper Flagg, plays anything like he did in the semifinal tonight, the regional semifinal with Arizona, they ain't losing. He's not going to let them lose. He's that kind of – Matt, I see you nodding along with me here. He's not going to let them lose, correct?
Yeah, and, Duke didn't have its best fastball tonight and got through. So, Duke proceeded through its semifinal at kind of that cruising altitude, whereas Alabama just, shot the cover off the ball. You do logic, and 2 + 2, who's likely to play better than it did on Thursday? It would be a stunner if Alabama played better than it did and Duke did not. So Alabama has a very steep hill to climb in this one.
I come back to profound things like your greatest players have to be the greatest players in the greatest moments. That guy looks like the greatest player right now in the 2025 tournament, and I don't know that you can count on him no-showing if you're Alabama. He more than likely plays a similar game to that right there that we saw tonight against Arizona. Stay tuned for that. Matt, great stuff. We want them to read College Wire, USA Today, also the USC Trojans Wire, and the UCLA Wire as well on the USA Today family of sites. You've got a bunch of women's basketball coverage for USC and UCLA still being alive, writing all about the men's tournament as well at collegewire.com. Did I leave anything else out, Matt Zemek, in closing, or are we good on
I have a few things to do, you could say.
I think you are a little busy. Yes.
Can you confirm the rumors? Is Juju dating Jaden Daniels? Is that a thing?
I don't know.
Well, they were, they sat together at there was a game played after USC's first round game. They played another game, Mississippi State Cal. So they sat together. I think it's just, athletes knowing athletes and sharing insights, I'm sure. So,
and then unfortunately for Juju, the injury, and how will USC respond? Read more at trojanswire.com, the USA Today family of sites. Did I get the good plug in there for that as well? Thank you, Matt Zemek. We'll catch up with you later in the weekend. We appreciate it on College Basketball Coast to Coast. We'll see you later. There he goes. Jason Powers, what else? What else have we left out here for tonight?
You want to do a quick little talk about tomorrow night?
We absolutely can look ahead.
Kentucky beat Tennessee for a third straight time.
I mean, obviously, that's one of the big topics. That's in Indianapolis tomorrow night where Houston and Purdue are playing. What about the absolute arm wrestling fist fight that there's going to be between the Houston, or actually the Purdue fans and the Kentucky fans for the tickets?
Right.
Our buddy Vince Ferrara reports they're being told right at 35,000 will be the capacity at Lucas Oil, not the full capacity for the Final Four when they put the court in the middle of the football field and have the full 75,000 in the football stadium available. One end of the stadium with temporary seats in and around the end zone, right at 35,000. How much of that is Purdue? How much of that is Kentucky for these two games? Purdue, Houston, Kentucky, Tennessee. Stay tuned. And you're right. It's tough to beat a team 3 times in a season.
How about this stat? Tennessee has allowed 50% shooting twice all year, both times to Kentucky.
There you go.
We know. I favor Tennessee tomorrow. I think Rick Barnes. I think it's going to be hard to beat. Tennessee's the better team. It's going to be hard to beat the better team 3 times. I think the offense for Tennessee will be enough. I think Kentucky's still not great on defense. I'll give the edge tomorrow to Rick Barnes and the Tennessee Volunteers and our boy Vince Ferrara to get to a Final 8. And
then they were in the Final 8 a year ago with Dalton Connect, and then ironically it was Purdue that took them out. Is Purdue going to be able to do something Houston in the game on Friday night at Lucas Oil Stadium? Stay tuned for that. Again, are they ready to handle the pro-Purdue crowd? That's a big topic. Is Purdue ready for the physical great help defense that Houston plays. They're not going to let you have easy shots, easy baskets, uncontested threes, not with any frequency. Houston will guard the daylights out of you, regardless of how loud the crowd's trying to be or not. What a backdrop. What a setting for that.
That arena will be full early because I think the Tennessee-Kentucky game is the lead-off
second game.
Night.
Right. The second game, the Kentucky fans will be in there, and then the second game for Purdue and Houston should be something else on that. And then we go over to the other side of the bracket for Friday night, and that is number 1 Auburn with Michigan, number 2 seed Michigan State with Ole Miss.
Yep.
Thoughts on that in the South bracket in Atlanta, Jason Powers?
Can the big men of Michigan, Golden and Wolf, can they neutralize Broome? You had the great stat the other day where they have 37 and 21 over the weekend.
The Twin Towers.
If they can put up that kind of number tomorrow in Michigan, keep the turnovers under. Again, Auburn's going to pressure those guards. I think you're going to see some pressure on those guards to try to turn Michigan over. They've had issues with turnovers. If Michigan can handle the ball and the bigs can put up 30 to 35 points, 17, 18 rebounds between them, they can hang around. I have a hard time. I think Auburn's going to pull away late. I don't know if they cover the number, but I think Auburn's the better team here. But again, the bigs can be a factor here for Michigan tomorrow night.
Again, that is Wolf, the Yale transfer, Golden, the Florida Atlantic transfer, and Dusty May, the brand new coach, with the job that he has done this year. And he's got Final Four experience. Bruce Pearl, obviously, Matt was referencing the 2019 Final Four, the tournament in the Final Four in Minnesota. Bruce Pearl had Auburn there. And for a moment, Auburn thought they had won when the shot was no good out of the corner for 3 from Virginia. Oh, by the way, it's a foul, and it's 3 free throws for a guy named Kyle Guy. He made all 3 free throws. They go to overtime. Virginia wins. So Bruce Pearl has Final Four experience as well going into this on Friday night. But the one I'm the most intrigued by is Tom Izzo and Michigan State playing Ole Miss. Here we go again with the symmetry of 2019. That's Chris Beard's Texas Tech team beating Tom Izzo and Michigan State in the semifinal game, and the other semifinal game of that Final Four. But Michigan State's toughness, the three-point shooting, the timely three-point shooting of Atkins and also Jace Richardson, that may be big, and they're physical as well. What a matchup for Michigan State and Ole Miss. Say something about Izzo. It's his time of the year with March. You buy that?
Yeah, I mean, again, give Ole Miss credit. To me, they were one of the most impressive teams last weekend with how they rolled through their little pod bracket. You got Padula, the little kid that could. You got Brakefield is the other guy. I believe his name is Brakefield. Ole Miss is not great at anything, but they're not bad at anything. They're really good across the board on both offensively and defensively. And we know Chris Beard can coach. I mean, he is a big time coach, and I think Michigan State will have just a little bit too much for them tomorrow night. I think you're going to have be another pro Auburn SEC crowd. You'll have a lot of Ole Miss people there. You'll have a lot of Auburn people there. Auburn's about an hour and a half down the road from Atlanta. So you'll have a lot of Southeastern Conference people in the building with those two teams there.
And we should mention, again, Florida and Alabama winning tonight. Arkansas let it slip away, or you would have had 3 teams in the Sweet 16 already. You're guaranteed either Tennessee or Kentucky. That's going to be the 3rd team now on Friday night. And then can Auburn or Ole Miss get into the Elite 8 here? The SEC gets actually 2 in the Elite 8, that should say. They're going to get 3. Auburn favored as the 1 seed to maybe be 4. Stay tuned. If Purdue upsets Houston, then the Big 12 will have gotten 4 teams in the Sweet 16, none in the Elite 8. Houston's the last hope there to get them in. Stay tuned for that. Listen, it's been a busy show. We remind you our sponsor, Ticket Smarter. If you're looking for tickets on the secondary market in Atlanta or in Indianapolis, good luck is right. Use our promo code COAST20. They've got the best prices on the secondary market with Ticket Smarter, the Ticket Smarter mobile app, and their technology. Use COAST20 to get $20 off the order. If you've got friends, acquaintances, get them the info. Get them to Ticket Smarter. Use the promo code COAST20 to get into the game. Think smarter, ticket smarter for that. Did we leave anything else out, Jason Powers? Early morning now for you and me on Friday morning after the Sweet 16. Anything
glad
else?
We had some drama tonight. Good for overtime thriller. Finally got some close games. I got the text message, a couple friends of mine. I'm going to bed. I was like, not so fast, my friend. Arizona's making this close, and here comes Texas Tech late. So glad we had some drama, and hopefully tomorrow night we get a couple wild finishes and games that go to the last minute or so.
There is no doubt. So Duke and Alabama, 2 parts of the Elite Eight. Florida and Texas Tech out west. 4 more teams will join them in the Elite Eight tomorrow night. Why don't we reload and do this all again here in about 21 or 22 hours? Sound good? After everything's over in Indianapolis and in Atlanta? Let's do that. Thanks to Ari Russell for all the hustle in Newark, New Jersey after the Duke and Alabama wins. Thanks to Matt Zemek for his insight out in Arizona. collegewire.usatoday.com for more of his writings. Jason Powers and the Powers on Sports podcast as well. Follow him at JPO Sports. Follow us at CBB Coast to Coast. Thank you for finding us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. I am merely TJ Rives. We've been talking Sweet 16 here on a Thursday night with Duke, Alabama, Florida, and Texas Tech in the overtime getting the wins. We're good for now on college basketball coast to coast. Good night.